Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, absolutely.
Aaron, I think that this is the film that coined the phrase dark middle chapter. Do you recall hearing about that before this movie?
No, and you're. I mean, if you're gonna have one, this is the one. Uh, I saw this in the theater, and it was dark, brother. After that first movie, a little Aaron was in awe of what had just occurred. You know what I mean? So yeah, it makes sense. I'm trying to sit around thinking about the other ones that fit the bill. Help me out here, Boat.
The other movies that
Other
have a dark
movies that have a
middle
dark
chapter.
middle chapter. Yeah.
Well, it's tough for me because I don't watch a lot of films. I don't have
I
the
mean,
breadth of knowledge that you
what
have. What
about
about what about
Lord of the
what about
Rings?
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that's a dark middle chapter for sure. You've got the Two Towers. What about Bride of Frankenstein and the Frankenstein trilogy?
I never really think of those as a trilogy, to be honest with you. I mean, I
Mm,
guess they are. I don't know. Is that a bad thing? I think Getting a Bride pretty good.
yeah,
Bride of Frankenstein.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
true. That's true.
before that he
Maybe
had nothing. Yeah, it
yeah.
was just a guy. So
Happy says Temple of Doom. I'd say that that's definitely the darkest of the indie films. So
I
yeah, I
love
think
I love
that's
that
it.
movie. And despite the leading lady is a horrible actress, I'm afraid she's
Mm,
beautiful, but Short Round's great. And there are a lot of great scenes in that movie, and so, but it is absolutely that's another one that it gets pretty dark and gritty in there,
hmm
for sure. So yeah, I think that's a good pick, But I don't necessarily have to see the trilogy get dark, or even have a trilogy. You have to be an awful good story to get a triple out.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you go
I
through
mean,
history, even The Godfather couldn't really get three good ones, and
yeah.
it's The Godfather. So
I've not seen The Godfather Part 2 or Part 3. Is the Godfather Part 2 the dark middle chapter?
well, they're all sort of dark.
That's
Godfather
true.
2 is great. The first two Godfathers are outstanding. The
I've seen
third
the first one.
Godfather, that one's no
In
good.
in the third one, did they go back to the future or something? Like, what happens in the third one?
It's just not very good.
Okay.
It's just not very good. It's been so long since I saw it, I can't sit here and tell you the exact points, but it was bad.
Mm.
I mean, think of the trilogies, the famous ones.
Mhm.
Like another thing I come up with, like Back to the Future, right? I don't
Right.
know if the middle one's the darker, but I thought the second two weren't good. I didn't. I don't know. I never understood why people. I thought the first one was pretty entertaining, but the second, third one,
I thought the second one was okay. The third one was garbage. Nobody
I,
needs that in the Old West. That's not good.
I
That's
don't
not
need
good.
any. I didn't need any of it.
I
It didn't do it for
What
me.
is the third what is your least favorite part 3 movie?
Boy, well, The Godfather Part Three is up there.
Mm.
That one's really bad. Well, I something like Indiana Jones. If you think about it, if the fourth and fifth were absolute trash. How many good fourth movies are there? That's an even better question.
Yeah, well, I
you
think
know,
there's definitely diminishing returns the
I
more
mean, it.
I
That's why
mean,
people still talk about James Bond because they've had like 1,000 movies because very few people can pull that off.
right.
I mean,
I mean, Rocky 4 is great.
it is great. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Rocky 5 things take a turn.
It's funny
Um,
because the Rocky series, the third one is the real dark one,
yeah.
where he loses
Mhm.
the belt and Mickey gets killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, and then of course the fourth one gets dark too. But I think the third was the dark one in that one.
The I've always thought that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 3 is the worst Part 3 I've ever seen. Have you seen the third Turtles movie?
I didn't see any of those because they
Oh
all. I don't
man.
like the turtles. I
I know
never
you're
liked
sort of
them.
anti-turtle. I'm a big Turtles guy.
It's dumb. I never understood why people. It just seemed dumb to
Listen,
me.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you that it's dumb, but I like it. But anyway, the third Turtles movie, they farmed out all of the special effects to another house. And
Yeah,
even as a kid, when I watched this, well, first of all, I was like, I noticed that it wasn't in the cinema for too long, and then it was really hard to find on home video. And when I
yeah,
finally saw it, I was like, oh, this is why. It's no good, no good.
yeah. I like some serious. I like garbage movies. Okay, as you know, or low end stuff, B stuff. Sometimes when they stretch those on, you get some pretty good stuff. Like there were like after the first couple trancers, there was a couple good. There was a couple trancers that were pretty good after that. After the first two Puppet Masters, there was a couple good, but those are garbage movies. They're spending like $5.
How many
You
troll
know,
movies have there been?
I don't know. I've seen two for sure, the first two.
Hmm.
But the thing is, those movies are completely unconnected. The first and second
Hmm.
troll have nothing to do with each other. You
Really?
know?
It's not the same
No,
troll?
no, no, no. Have you ever seen Troll 2?
No.
You need to watch it. It's horrible, especially watch a rip track of it. You'll be good to go. The Matrix movies. That's
Hmm.
another one. Like they
I've
should
seen
have
the first
stopped after
one.
the first one. They never
Mhm.
ever watch any more
Okay.
ever.
Because I like the
Don't
first
ever
one. I thought
watch
it was
those.
good.
Yeah, the first one was good, but then
Mhm.
I mean, and
I'm
then the
telling
thing
you,
is,
you should watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You should
the hell,
watch the movie. It's good. It's a good film.
I
And then
don't
Teenage
believe
Mutant
it.
Ninja Turtles 2, when Vanilla Ice jumps on the stage and they start
Oh,
doing the ninja rap, man, it
I
didn't get
mean,
better.
I like ninja movies and stuff from back in the day, and so I find the Turtles at a front to all the goofy and music ninja stuff that I watched in the '80s. I didn't like the comic of that. I just never got into it. The role playing game. I will say the video game are great. I will give them that, but hopefully today's game will be just as good.
Let's talk about it, Aaron.
Shall we? Hopefully that little love theme won't get us nailed by the thought police because it's so accurate to the actual movie. It's look, boat.
We might have to cut that out of the final episode.
Yeah, it's The Empire Strikes Back, boat
Yeah.
on the Amiga, live and in living color. My God, I remember the very first day I found this game back when I had my Amiga 1000. I was a happy boy because I'd never played this before. And I was like, man, more Vector Star Wars? Keep it coming. So let's get into it here. This is Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, the direct sequel to Star Wars, and as direct as you could get. We'll get into that in a minute. This was released on the Amiga in '88, along with the Atari ST, the C64, the Speccy, the Amstrad, and the BBC. So they had their working boots on in '88.
Hmm.
And this is based on the Little Scene arcade game that was released in '85. Just a little bit about the arcade game. So everyone knows Star Wars, the arcade game, the vector graphic wonder game with the cool yoke. Maybe he had the set down version, and everybody loved it. It's a great game, right, Boat?
It is. The cockpit version especially desirable.
And so, well, Atari was like, we sure like money, you know. How about a kit conversion for this thing?
Hmm.
And lo, it came to pass. And this sort of reminds me in some ways of Time Pilot when it got to when they had the update kit installed, and you were used to playing the first one, and you go into the second one, you're like, "What am I looking at here?" Well, that was the reaction many people probably had.
Was that
When they
Time
were playing this
Pilot
one.
88?
Yeah. I think that's the year. Not good. The sequel. So this was published on the Amiga by Domark. You know, when I think of Domark, usually I don't have like happy feelings, you know. But I looked over what some of the stuff they'd done, and we've actually played something here that was pretty good. They did the
I've
original
always,
Star Wars.
yeah, I've always thought that Domark was just a real dumb sounding name, and
It
that's
it,
where
it sounds like
mostly,
dull,
right, right. Oh,
but
we missed the mark.
they
Um,
they
they
did
did
Star
Lords of
Wars.
Midnight.
What? Yeah, they did a bunch of stuff. They did APB, Badlands, Castle Masters. These are all ones we've covered.
Yeah.
F1, the hard driving, Hydra. Remember Hydra?
Hmm.
And like I said, the original Star Wars. This was developed by an outfit correctly named Vector Graphics, spelled Cool Guy style. These guys didn't do a ton of stuff on the Amiga, but the things that they did, you probably know Star Wars was there, the original. They also did Fighter Bomber, Killing Cloud, and Space Shuttle, the flight simulator. We got to try that sometime for simulators, but
Yeah.
that might be kind of fun. Of course, this is copyright from Atari and Lucas Games. I actually Tengen, the Atari's like baloney fake name.
Right.
This was coded by a fellow named Bill Pullman. Guess what? He worked on the original Star Wars game on the Amiga. He did Aquaventure, and also he's the Bill and Bill's Tomato game. Remember that?
Oh.
The other code on this was a Clarin Kutniks, who also worked the original Star Wars and Fighter Bomber and Killing Cloud. Graphics by Derek Austin, who worked on the original Star Wars and Shuttle. And the music from this, the ever-present, omnipresent David Whitaker, who, of course, did the Shadow of the Beast, Xenon 2, Golden Axe, and about a million other things. This retailed at launch boat for £19, 95p on the OCS Amiga. Thank God for that mouse. So, Boat, have you ever seen this game in the arcade?
Yes. I believe that I believe I've seen this at the old Galloping Ghost. I think
That's
I played
the
this
only
last time we were
place.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right now that you mentioned it. But, I mean, up to that point, I'm assuming you've never seen it.
No.
Do you remember playing it?
I don't think I played it at Galloping Ghost. I knew that I had played this before this week. I played it on MAME.
Yeah. So, of course, based on the film Empire Strikes Back, the glorious, I mean, you've seen all the Star Wars, assuming, where does this fall in the original trilogy? How do you rank them? Let's get into that real quick.
The current hipster take is, and maybe it's been always the hipster take, is that the second one, it's the dark middle chapter. It's the only one that Lucas got help to write. It's got it ends sort of on a low note. I gotta say that I am 100% with all those hipsters. This is the best Star Wars without a doubt. I watched it again this week. It's a great film. Is it as timeless as the original Star Wars? Probably not. I think the first Star Wars, moves along at a pace that keeps your interest. That's almost unbelievable. I mean, it's such a well-paced film, but this movie, man, I mean, I've watched a lot of the newer Star Wars properties,
I'm sorry.
and this just, I mean, it's so good. It's so good. It's so well written. I love all of the cinematography. I love all of the sort of downtime, on Dagobah and stuff like that. It's a great film. So this is, it's my favorite of the original trilogy for sure.
I mean, listen, I always say it's my favorite, but I will say this. I could take, there are favorite parts of all three of the films.
Sure.
If I could take them all and make one ultra film, I would take the scenes, the trench scene from the first movie, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
I would take the fighting scene in the second movie where Luke is fighting Darth Vader and Han gets burned. That scene there, I would take all that. And then from the third movie, I would take the beginning where they're all captured. They do the escape.
Right.
I thought that was awesome. I like all three of those things. So every movie has something awesome in it, at least one awesome thing.
Yeah, there's great set pieces in each one of the first
But
three.
as a complete film, I mean, the first one's awful good.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful good. But this one, as a standalone film, is just I think there were more sections in this that let the actors flex their acting muscle. I think there was more meat on the bone. The whole stuff on Dagobah was unique.
Right.
The ominous vision that Luke saw, that was really out of character for the series.
Yeah.
And the spiritual side of the Force is explored in a way that it's really never touched on again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the training with Yoda, it's sort of like training everyone to understand how the Force works.
Right.
And so I enjoyed that. They did a good job with Yoda, so.
The only other thing I'll say is that I think that the first movie it can stand on its own. You can release Star Wars and never release another Star Wars movie, and it's awesome. I don't think you can do that with Empire Strikes Back.
No.
So if you look at it with that criteria, the first one is probably a better film. But if you look at it as a complete experience, I'm going to go with Empire every time.
And the funny thing, and I'll stop talking about this after this. This is going to sound like a dumb statement, but these films are in the exact right order.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the middle movie in a trilogy has to be the strongest one, I think, or it helps. Because that's the one where you could sag that thing. Because you could kind of phone in a good chunk of the third movie and get away with it because people are ready to go.
Right.
You know, you've got to come in hard on the first movie, but that second movie really has to be very buoyant. And I think they did a great job on this. And so, my God, there were so many action pieces. And we didn't even talk about the stuff on Hoth, which
Yeah.
was awesome in the
Mhm.
first movie, or the asteroid, or the second movie. There's stuff on the asteroid field. There's so many great set pieces, the Sky City, the whole 9 yards. And so you would think to yourself, man, this should be a slam dunk to make a game, a sequel to Star Wars, because there are so many different ways you can go. And I guess that was sort of the way they looked at it when they made the game, because they did not stray far from the path of the first game graphically. I don't think, Boat. I mean, they threw in a few extra things, and they certainly put in a lot more digitized audio in the arcade and Amiga version. But I mean, they knew what brought them to the dance. I think. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Well, they had to keep the yoke because
Yeah.
this was a conversion kit. So anything that they had to do had to involve you piloting some kind of craft.
Yes.
And so that is a blessing and a curse.
I agree.
Because as we'll see as we start to talk about this game, there are only so many scenes from the second movie in which you're piloting a craft that make for interesting entertainment.
Yeah. I guess, Bo, we should probably we could talk about how the game opens, and the game opens just like you'd expect. It plays the Star Wars theme. It comes up, it gives you a brief screen, like a sort of a digitized screen of like the movie poster, basically, or it's really the cover of the game. And then it gives you the option to reverse your steering, on
Reverse
the
your y-axis.
correct. Thank you, Bode. But then you're off and running, and then you come upon a menu that gives you multiple options. You've got it is easy, medium, and hard, and then below easy and hard are things that basically are say manual. And I don't know if you ever clicked on those, but
Never.
I did. And what they do is they sort of give you on-screen instructions and a background of what's happening.
Oh,
Here's what's
okay.
happening
Sorry,
here.
I thought you were talking about like manual control or something that
No,
I didn't. Okay, yeah, I did do that. In fact, I did that for the gameplay footage that we put up on our channel this week because I think it's one of the coolest parts of the game. I love it. I love seeing like the blueprints, which is funny because it's all like the wireframe blueprint is also the way that the thing looks in real life too.
Yeah.
But I love seeing it spin around and information about each little thing. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't make that the default because that adds a lot to the game.
Well, I mean, it's funny because it's the exact same way in the arcade. And it's funny, it's kind of confusing to look at. And you're like, what's going on here? You're right. They could have just added this in, but I guess for brevity's sake, they thought, people probably know all this stuff.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. They should have added it in for length. So you could pick from easy, medium, and hard. And we'll get into the other levels. I would suggest, in fact, I would implore that you start at easy, if I'm honest. And then once you've done that, you're off and running, and you're beginning the first sequence of the game, Bo, which takes place on Hoth. You want to set this up?
Yeah, so you are traversing the the dark, inky blackness of Hoth, much like the dark, inky blackness of everywhere in a Star Wars vector game.
It's nighttime on Hoth, Bo.
That's right. It's nighttime on Hoth, and you are tasked. You're driving your snowspeeder, and you need to destroy these probe droids. These, if you recall from the film, in the opening sequence, the Empire is shooting out all these probe droids to the furthest reaches of the galaxy to try and find the Rebel base. And your job is to destroy these probe droids before they are able to send back a transmission to the Empire to alert the Empire and Darth Vader of your presence. That's what you're doing in the opening sequence here.
They took a lot of artistic liberties here, Bud, I think, because number one, the ship you're piloting, it looks more like it almost looks like a land speeder, I mean, no, not the bike from the third movie,
right,
right,
whatever that thing is called. Yeah,
it's real. It doesn't look like anything like a snow speeder. I mean, you only see the front of it, so I guess technically, if you drew all of it out, maybe that's the way it would look. But it's odd. But the scaling, and then if you think about it, this part of the movie was really never. I think Han Solo blew up one of these things, but I don't. There was never anybody in a Lancer going after him that I remember in the
Well,
film. You just
first of all,
saw it.
I think there was only one probe or
Yeah,
maybe two probes. Here, there's about 14,000 probes. The
yeah.
Empire's got money to burn. They're sending hundreds of probes to every planet.
Now,
Um,
it's funny because they have a little transmission cloud that comes out of them. It's like four
it
lines.
looks like
They're
a
through
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and they're establishing a connection to the Star Destroyer. If four of these get out, you're gone. Now, you have the ability to earn a Jedi letter. Okay. And so, in the first section of this, to earn the letter, because you're spelling out Jedi, I knew you'd love this boat. It's like Mr. Do.
Yeah, I love that
You
part
have
of the game.
to kill a specific amount of these I don't know what you call
The
them,
probe
droids.
bots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of the first section of this boat?
You know, this was annoying to me because this is the one section of the game that I felt that I wasn't very good at. It's easy to destroy probes, but
Yeah.
it's not easy to disrupt because you're supposed to shoot their communication signals, which is real wacky when you think about it. Because not only are communication signals usually invisible, these travel extremely slowly. But
Yeah.
because
And
of
they're
the way,
visual.
yeah, they're also visual. Yeah. The way that the screen sort of scrolls vertically, or the inability of the screen to scroll vertically, everything just seems kind of hunched together, and there wasn't a lot of space for you to really shoot those transmissions. So I found like I always found myself having to just be real fast on blowing up the droids. I was not really successful with it disrupting the transmission too much.
This is a very manic, like super spastic scene because these guys throw fireballs like the TIE fighters do, and they throw them like they're going out of style.
Mhm.
I mean, these things are, if they could throw Wi-Fi signals like this, they'd know everything in the universe. I mean, these things are tossing them. So it's difficult. It's a difficult. I mean, I think they tried to use, like you said, you're limited as to what you can do, and so I think they did an okay job of giving you something that was sort of like the movie,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So once these things have alerted the Empire, here come the walkers, the AT-ATs, and the ATSTs, and you and your trusty snow speeder have to go through and try to keep these guys from attacking the rebel base. Well, how do you do that? Well, it's sort of like the Empire Strikes Back on the Atari 2600. You can shoot the little, like, there's a little red area on the cockpit of these things you can shoot and blow them up. Or you're armed with the old tow cables, and you can shoot tow cables and wrap them around the legs of the AT-ATs and knock them down. And in a hilarious bit, you also can get points for driving through their legs. And I thought to myself, why would you do that? You're literally getting ready to get overran. Can you imagine Luke going like, "Hey, did you see that, Leia? You see me go through its legs?"
It's just
She'd be
style
like,
points, you know.
oh yeah. And the thing is, it's hard to do without getting hit. And you get multiples if you do like a bunch.
Right.
So like, if you're looking to to score, you actually don't want to kill off the AT-ATs right away. You want to drive through as many legs as you can,
Exactly.
which is odd. I will say, I think every boy's dream when they saw Star Wars was to pilot a snowspeeder and go after these AT-ATs. And you know, that tow rope gimmick was outstanding in the film. I loved it.
Mhm.
It's a lot easier in this because these tow ropes are more like bolos. They come out. You don't have to like
That's exactly
wrap
right.
them around.
The old toe bolo, rarely
The old
seen.
tow bolo. One would wonder what are the other uses of the tow bolo. You know, think about that. But I mean, it is gratifying to watch the. Now, I will say, when the AT-ATs go down, there's not an incredible explosion, but they do.
You do see
sort of
them kneel
explode.
down, though. It's kind of cool.
That,
you
yeah,
know?
that's true. They do. So, what did you think about the second area here, boat?
Well, it's no surprise. This is the best level of the game.
This is the
by
money
far.
level here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised that they didn't make this the first. I mean, okay, in a way, I'm surprised they didn't make this the first level, but it does make sense because they're trying to go in order of the the chronological order of the film. This is really, if you want to get quarters out of people, starting you off on the level where you're flying through legs and shooting out tow bolos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really fun. That level is really fun. This game moves really fast. And there's no slowdown, even though there's tons of stuff going on the screen. This is programmed extremely well. I mean,
Yeah,
I couldn't believe how good it was. And this gives you the feeling that you are in the movie, which is what you want when you play a movie game, and you so rarely get, where you are
yeah,
piloting the snowspeeder and you're throwing out the tow cables and you're watching the AT-ATs go down. You're flying through the legs. You're getting bonus multipliers. You're shooting the lights out of the ATSTs. You know, those headshots right there in the canopy. It's great. You know, I wish that level could have gone on for longer somehow. I wish that they could have, maybe done 2 or 3 stages where you have to do those things, but maybe do some other things as well.
yeah.
I just never wanted to leave that stage because it was so much fun.
Yeah, and it's funny. Both the first two stages give you this feeling that you could go wherever you want. Maybe you can. I'm not even sure. I always, you sort of want to fly towards the stuff. I
Right.
don't know if you just keep. I never tried just flying in a straight line to see what would happen. But it's you don't feel like you're on rails. I mean, because you're
No.
not. I mean, you're flying this sucker. Yeah, this is your money level. And there's a cool picture of the Rebel base whenever you lose the level. I will say to get the Jedi letter on that, you have to kill a specific number of walkers. Um, the third level in this is very reminiscent of the first game. In this game, you are Han Solo piloting the Millennium Falcon as you are trying to escape the Empire, and they've got their TIE fighters out to get you. The Millennium Falcon is rendered in a. I mean, you see the front of the Millennium Falcon. It's like the Millennium Falcon is like, I don't know, the color scheme is interesting. It's blue and red.
Yeah.
Close enough to gray, I guess. But I mean, there's not much to say about this level, is there, bud? I mean, this is pretty much exactly like the first level of the original game, except you've got the Millennium Falcon and you're not flying towards the Death Star at the end. That's pretty much all there was to this. What you think of this one, Bode?
Yeah, I think that you had to put a sequence like this in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree.
You
And
always
it's
got to shoot
fun.
down some TIE fighters. Yeah. And again, everything moves quickly. You're shooting both the projectiles and the TIE fighters themselves.
Yeah.
This is another solid kind of level. It doesn't rewrite any rules, but like you said, you've got to have.
And to get the Jedi letter on that one, you have to kill a certain amount of fighters, and you get your next letter. Now, we're going to talk about the last level here. And this is the level where you fly through the famous asteroid level, the asteroids from the movie, which is a great scene.
Yeah.
Where the Millennium Falcon steers into the asteroid field to try to evade the TIE fighters, and ultimately lands on an asteroid, unknowingly lands on an asteroid that's inhabited by a big worm creature, like a dune worm.
I love that dune worm.
Great scene. Now, unfortunately, this is to me the crappiest, weakest, and laziest of the levels. Whereas you fly the Millennium Falcon through a series of large, round boulders that fly towards you that you can't do anything about, and they just hit you. And ultimately, the only way to get past this level, amazingly, is to steer down and to the left, just like at JFK. And you have to, and then you're still going to take a couple hits, but hopefully your shields will hold up. That was the only way I got past it. I mean, this level, to be the last level, is not only does this level suck, in my opinion, but it's a horrible finish to the game. It's just horrible. What do you think, Bode?
My theory is that they ran out of money or they ran out of time.
Yeah.
Because this is no good.
Yeah.
No good at all. It's very rare that you just wish that something wasn't there at all, and this is one of those times. I understand that you can't really have a section where you like want to like blow away the asteroids because you're essentially just recreating the TIE fighter level at that point. But man, I would have just dropped the asteroids and just make it a 3-level game and just have the loop there.
I would have had them shoot the asteroids and have I mean, listen, Atari made asteroids. The game is right there. Just have the asteroids like break in half. Maybe they have to shoot one twice. You know, anything's better than what they came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the levels in this game and the original Star Wars, I mean, this one is garbage. And what makes it worse is by the time you get to this level, you probably lost a lot of shields, and you can't stop these asteroids. All you can do is not hit them. So all you need to do, at least on the easy level, is to steer down to the left, and then you will only get hit once or maybe twice. But
Mhm.
that's sad. Think about that's not the way Han Solo would do it.
No, no,
Uh,
eh, and then you get to the end of the thing, and the game is the
yeah,
end. Let's compare and contrast this to the first Star Wars. The first Star Wars, when you complete the loop, the Death Star freaking explodes, and like the universe cheers for you. In this game, you see Darth Vader rendered in vector graphics.
yeah.
He gives you some garbled message about joining the dark side, and then the game loops around. There's no magnificent parade of glory. You haven't really accomplished anything.
No,
It's really sort of pointless. And it makes you feel like you wasted your time when you get to the end of that.
because if you think about it in the movie, they do escape from the Cloud City. They could
Right,
have put that in there. And I
right.
will say that when you do get that you do get to see the Millennium Falcon like fly away, and you get to see a Star Destroyer, and you get to see Darth Vader. I guess that's the treat, but it's not much of a treat. I mean,
No.
that's SpaceX. By the way, to get the Jedi letter in that, you have to not die. That's what. That's
Speaking of Cloud City, that would be
yeah,
what I'd put in the fourth, the fourth slot instead of the asteroids. I would put you in the Millennium Falcon, and you've got you're negotiating both sort of maybe the clouds, vector clouds, also those weird Jetsons like buildings, enemy
yeah.
fighters. You're avoiding all that stuff. That's what I put in there instead of the asteroid field. That's a
Well,
much more exciting level.
unfortunately, this is a tendency with these replacement boards. When they're swapping in a new game, they don't. Sometimes they'll under game the game and
Yeah,
not put enough meat on the bone.
yeah.
So when you capture, do you know what happens when you get all four letters of Jedi? But I'll
I
tell
don't
you,
think. Okay, tell me.
if you collect all four, it instantly erases every enemy shot from your screen, which is funny because you get it at the end. Well, generally, if you get it, it's at the end of the level for a short time, and then when you put your name in, it puts a rank insignia next to your initials if you get
Okay,
on the high
okay.
score list. So
Well,
at
that's
least there's
that's not nothing.
there's something. So you don't get a whole lot of shields in this, and you can go through your shields very quickly, on even the first level, even on easy. I mean, you've got to be on your game. Now, the Amiga is perfectly designed to play this game. The mouse is an excellent substitute for the yoke. The mouse, and this is one of those games where, like, sometimes you play those shooting games with the mouse, you feel like you're cheating, like a light gun game. This doesn't feel like that. This
Yeah,
is still a game. You have to
yeah.
you have to get in there. Graphically speaking, let's have a look, Boat, at the combine this with the arcade. It's very, very close. I mean, you've
Mhm.
got to give the guys credit over there. I mean, I think they did a pretty darn good job converting this over to the Amiga. And I played the arcade, and I'll be honest with you, the Amiga version is very almost identical, except it doesn't have as many sound samples, but it's got a goodly amount too. Wouldn't you say?
I was very surprised at the amount
Yeah.
of sound samples in this game. I mean, and they're just as good as the arcade version, which is to say, not that great.
Oh,
But
I
I
thought they were
mean,
way better than the first game. I thought
yeah,
they did
I
a much
mean,
better job.
you can understand what they're saying. They sound like the people. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So what? So how to rate this game? I guess we should talk about the upper levels, which I tried all three levels. Nothing changes except the amount of fireballs. It becomes insane.
Mhm.
I mean, it's insane. Did you try? You tried the upper two, I'm wagering.
I didn't because I felt like I was having a good enough time on the lower levels trying to raise my score. I didn't feel the need. It wasn't like I was mastering the game at the lower levels and I wanted to test because there's got to be a reason for you to want to push yourself.
Yeah.
And I was nowhere close to getting to the top of the high score list even on easy level.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, there's no reason to bother doing that. You're gonna have enough trouble playing for any length of time on easy. I mean, this game, it's absolutely a game that you could run through at least once. Going through it more than once, I could get to the second asteroid level, and then, I mean, it's tough. That's tough.
Mhm.
And if you don't have any shields when you get there, it's real tough. But I think they did a great job converting this. So any any sort of problems that we'd have with the game are sort of problems we would have with the arcade machine.
Right.
And I think the arcade machine, as we've discussed, was flawed. I don't
Hmm.
think they put an ending on this game. I think you may have nailed it. I think maybe they ran out of time. They needed something immediately. I mean, they were obviously using the same engine they used for the first game. I mean, in pretty much every way, this is a more advanced game than the first game.
I've got a question for you. This just
Sure.
came to mind to me.
Yeah, man.
This game was released in 1985.
Yes.
I wonder when the last color, or not even just color, I wonder when the last vector arcade game was released. This has got to be one of the very last ones.
I'm going to look right now. It's a good. Well, I'm doing that, but did we get any reviews on this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll read some Discord reviews while you're looking that up. So we're going to start things off with Jeff Hanna. Jeff Hanna says, the conceit of this game is there's an empire and it was hit and now it wants to return the favor. The full story is not explained in game. I have no idea if the product originally shipped with a novella that describes the story. I'm assuming there was an earlier game and this is the sequel. I've searched for the Empire Gets Hit on various retro sites trying to find the origin story game, but came up empty. Some in-game lore or an opening screen that recaps what occurred before this game would be helpful. In terms of art, the game really likes the color black. The majority of the time, you'll be staring at a lot of black. Other than black, the game features a smattering of white, red, green, blue, and yellow. These colors are not nearly as important as the black, so they never take up much real estate. In the gameplay department, without a manual, novella, or any in-game clues, I'm left to assume that you hate frogs and some type of four-legged creature. The game starts with a white doorstop in front of you, and then you are right into it, trying to trip these green frogs. Are they really tall turtles? The art is hard to decipher. I think they are turtles because they look like they have a shell. They are green like the frogs. They have abnormally long legs for turtles, though. If you slaughter enough frogs and turtles, you are then set against green bow ties. I don't know if these are just spinach pasta bow ties or if this was an expedient to keep using the color green. Regardless, the bow ties spit globs of asterisks at you. Maybe the asterisk globs are meant to represent peppermint candies, as they're colored red and white. Occasionally, a bow tie will emit a yellow squiggle, which I'm sure represents a radio transmission. Why spinach pasta has wireless technology is never explained. If you eat enough bow tie pasta and peppermints, the white doorstop returns for a moment. After that brief respite, you must dodge a never-ending swarm of billiard balls, but for some reason they are all the number 5 billiard ball. You know this because, like the frogs, turtles, and pasta, the billiard balls are also green. Try as you might, you will never avoid all of the number 5 billiard balls, and then you will die. Unanswered questions. Is this a physics-based game? The game frequently mentions the force, but never provides the mass or the acceleration of the frogs, or the bow ties, the peppermints, billiard balls, so you can't figure out the force of all of them. There are some acronyms, JEDI, for which you get letters. I assume JEDI just stands for Just Emit Directional Impulse, which would fit the physics-based game idea, but it's really opaque as to what this is all about. The controls, the game lets you go right, lets you go left, lets you go right, and on some occasions it lets you go up and down. Mostly, though, it's just left and right. The game has sound. Conclusion. Making new franchises is hard, but if you don't commit to building out the world's storytelling and informing your players of what's going on, the franchise will never resonate. I see promise in this and think it could be turned into a decent movie someday. Not by, say, Disney, but by a good movie studio. The Empire Strikes Back is very playable, but not easy to understand. 8 out of 10 frog things.
Who wrote that?
That was Jeff Hanna.
Jeff must have been hitting the pipe before he put that crazy thing down. At the beginning, I thought, man, which game are we talking about? He's just lost his mind. Move on.
Pajako 6502 writes, so this is a weird one. The game of the second movie that came out after the game of the third movie and 5 years after the second movie. Still with me? As a conversion kit game for the excellent Star Wars, we get a kind of rehashed version of that gameplay-wise, but one that somehow doesn't manage to pull off the thrill and excitement of the first. There's no real sense of completion like there is with blowing up the Death Star. The AT-AT level is by far the best, but even that doesn't have the sheer excitement of flying down the trench. They also noticeably nobbled the playtime by reducing your shields to 5 from 9. Developers did a good job of cramming it into one disc on the Amiga, and the game is fairly close to the arcade. but a reduced playfield means screens full of baddies and often you take hits on the first level as probes appear right next to you and fire before you have a chance to react. Likewise, the asteroid field, the weakest level, has massive asteroids that are easy to hit when compared to the arcade, and it seems luck is rather involved rather than skill on the Amiga at least. Not so much striking back as leaving you a passive aggressive post-it note. Play it briefly, then go back to Star Wars. 7 out of 10. P.S. Can someone get me a copy of the game Jeff played? It sounds like a riot.
Very good. Well, I looked this up, Bo, while you were chatting there. As far as I can tell, the last color vector graphic game ever released was Top Gunner by Exidy. That's what I'm reading here. Now,
Okay.
I will, because there's another Atari game that never got released but was made that would have been later.
So what year was that game released?
86.
86. Okay, so
So
we're nearing the end.
I will get you. I will find out for next week's show. I'll be definitive here. Just to close shop on this one, the people over at Lemon give us a 6.28. The people over at Lore gave us a 73%, and the fine folks at Moby chimed in on this one a 7 out of 10. The magazines were sort of all over the map on this one. AUI gave this a 5 out of 10. They weren't impressed. The Games Machine gave this an 89%. They were impressed. Your Amiga gave this an 84. Zap, in their November of 88, gave this an 82. The average magazine score, somewhere in the ballpark of 87. That's too high, I think. I would rate this. I'd call this a C-level game. If you're a Star Wars fan and you like the samples and you appreciate the effort, I think this is a pretty good game. But, I mean, I don't fault the developer. They did a great job. But, and they weren't asked to make a better game than the arcade. They were asked to make the arcade game, and I think they did exactly what they were supposed to do on that one, Bo. Any thoughts at the closed shop on this one?
I'm gonna go a little bit higher than you on this one. I think this is easily a B title. I had fun playing this game, even though it is unfinished. It moves extremely quickly. It is immersive. I love vector games by default. So yeah. I'm in line with the magazine reviews on this. This is a B title for me.
I'm not gonna fight you on that one, Bo.
If you ask any Amiga repair technician what the most problematic component of a motherboard is, they'll undoubtedly mention capacitors. The electrolytic capacitors that shipped with the Amiga are 30 years old or older at this point, and each one is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode battery acid all over your motherboard, sometimes damaging it irrevocably. Don't wait. Replace your capacitors now. Full capacitor kits for every Amiga model are available now at retrorewind.ca. Don't want to attempt the repair yourself? Use their white glove recap service and leave the intricate removal and soldering process to the professionals using industry standard equipment. Use the promo code AMIGOS10 at checkout and save 10% off your cap kit or service. Remember, make retrorewind.ca your first stop for all your Commodore computer needs.
Amiga News.
All right, Aaron, we've got some exciting Amiga news this week. Our first story this week, one of your favorite Amiga games is now available legally to play for free.
Beautiful, man.
That's right. We want a hat tip to Laurent Giroux, who's always on the lookout for legitimate copies of games to play.
He's too legit.
He's too legit to quit.
Yeah.
Copecom is the rights holder, current rights holder for Hybris, Sword of Sodan, and Battle Squadron.
Man, if you're gonna get the rights to something, pay Winda right there. Those three.
That's right. Free to play on the Amiga, PC, Mac, and Linux. These are three. Of course, you love Sword of Sodan. You're probably the world's #1 exponent of Sword of Sodan.
I played it on stream last week just for you, Code. I talked about how much you didn't like it.
And so, yeah, if you're into this and you want to download some free copies of these games that you can play without a hint of piracy guilt, head on over to the link in our Amiga News subreddit.
Good for those guys. See, I like that. I wonder if they're going to release the other ones. I bet surely this right here you could release on You could wrap this up and release something like that you could sell.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well, check this out. Cope.com is bringing these iconic Amiga experiences back for Sega Mega Drive and C64 are coming soon. Oh, I guess I don't know if that means they're going to, just because these all came out on the C64. Well, not
Right.
hybrid.
I think those are coming out soon, and then they're free to play right now.
That's dandy.
Yeah.
Good for those guys.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and we only have one other piece of news this week, Aaron. It's been a slow news week here in the Amiga scene. Doug at Tenmark has a new video. I briefly scrubbed through this, but you've watched it in depth. This is his review of the A600GS, a new Amiga piece of hardware, a new Amiga console, if you will. We've talked about this several times. Aaron, what are Doug's thoughts, and what are your thoughts in relation to Doug's thoughts?
I'm glad you asked, Boater. So this thing, I believe, was these got released over at Ravi's gimmick. I believe that's the first place I heard about them. You were there.
I interviewed the creator.
Yeah, and so when these came out, I believe this was last summer, and they've been out since. And Doug was tardy to the party because he's a busy man.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he had talked about these briefly months and months ago, and he was not a fan. And so they've had 7 months or 6 months to update these and figure out and squash the bugs, do all the stuff you need to do to make a product go. And so when Doug says this is the definitive review, I believe him because it's the last review. Like everyone else rushed out. They reviewed it the day it came out. But really, for a product like this, you need to wait about 6 months to, that way they've got time
iron out the bugs. That's
right. This is a little gimmick. If you're listening to the radio, the A600 it's just the size of a coaster, really. It's got a couple joystick ports on it. And HDMI and stuff you'd expect, just a couple USB ports. And what this is
I think are they USB or are they DME9 ports?
It's got both.
Okay.
It's got both. It's got USB ports on the back.
Okay.
And what you've got here is just sort of like a small. It's basically like a. Remember, the Chris's Amy Berry thing or whatever
the Pi Amiga.
The Pi Amiga. This is sort of like that. This is not on a Raspberry Pi. It's on another Pi
that
interfaces
Pi, right?
Exactly, with a custom board that it was produced. And then the software is sort of like the what was that stuff we used to use back in the day? The front end. It's a special front end. It's a real fancy front end, but Doug pretty much drops a hammer on the front end because the front end, you can't run anything. And one of the problems this thing had out of the gate was it's not using actual Kickstart ROMs. It's using those Arrows ROMs.
There's nothing but trouble with those. Incompatibility city.
This is may or may not be a popular opinion, but I've had enough of this crap with the Kickstart ROMs. This is 2025. It's not like the people that own those ROMs they got their money's worth. And I'm sick of this crap.
Even if you are a stickler and you want to give the money to the rights holders, you can pay 99 cents to download WinUAE from the Android Play Store, and you now legally own the Kickstart ROM.
Yes. But I mean, this is stupid. They should just release these, I think. I've been saying it for years. I'm saying it again. You got your money's worth. It's 2025. These need to be, if someone wants to license them to do like an Amiga Mini or something, that's a different story. But for your average slup, unleash the hounds and just let this stuff go. I'm getting tired of this crap because everyone that looks at this stuff, there's always that little disclaimer. Now, listen, everybody, do the right thing. We're all pirating all the software, and we have been for like 40 years. But we got to do the right thing here. It gets old. But anyway.
I understand.
So this has the Arrows ROMs on it. So you've got to go. So Doug says now you can put the proper ROMs in there. Okay, so you got that. And then if you can also put your own Amiga build in there. You got that. You're good to go. And then once you do that, it looks like a pretty tight little device that's pretty compatible. It gives you a lot of options. In fact, it's sort of like WinUAE like options with graphic cards and various hardware accoutrement that you not normally have on an Amiga. And he likes it. He really puts it over. It has some interface flaws that need to be addressed. It's a real stupid one. It's like the screen flashes when you move the mouse to a certain part of the screen for the menus to come up. They don't work right. That seems like something you should be able to get fixed pretty quick. But overall, This thing I think costs like $100, US. As someone who bought a similar item for about the same price, I think it's an okay alternative. I mean, you're going into the realm now that they've got these inexpensive misters.
Yeah.
You're in
A
now.
lot
You're
tougher
playing in that
sell.
field.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, if you're me and you, the dumb guy squad, Mister's great for us. But if you're a hardcore Amiga fan that wants a bunch of retargetable this, and you want the Amiga to run this fast with this much memory, you're going to have more options on this than you probably do on the Mister. For now, that core. So, but yeah, I thought this was an excellent job by the Dougster. Good work, Doug.
And that's going to do it for this week's Amiga News, Aaron. What do we have coming up on the show next week?
Oh, let's find out, Boater. Oh, man. There it is. It's Carve Up.
Yeah, Carve Up. So this is, I believe, a take on one of my favorite arcade games, one of your least favorite arcade games, City Connection. So we'll have to put on the sparring gloves for next week.
I know you'll love City Connection. I have tried in the past because, I like the things you like.
Yeah.
Because I want to be in lockstep with you, Bode.
Right.
And now that you've done the beat, now I'm so proud of you for embracing Babylon 5 and some of the other things I've recommended. I'm going to turn the table here, and I'm going to try to embrace this game that you love so dearly.
Okay. Sounds like a plan, man. Hey, everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our show. If you like it and you want to support us, patreon.com/Amigos podcast gives you access to uncut bonus episodes. This week we talked about the West Coast Avengers. So if you're into the comic scene and you want to hear Aaron's take on the fabulous West Coast Avengers, you can listen in. And of course, you get access to the best Discord server on the internet. And we want to give a special thank you and shout out to all the people that already do support us. Thank you all so much. You guys rock. We will see you guys next week. And until then, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.